Hey there YouTube, welcome to Big Mike Beard Wisdom. So, we're back at it with the sump pumps. This time, we're kind of fixing some of the issues from last time. So, with this front sump pump, I kind of had that float zip tied in a way that it went underneath that metal bracket. Well, this time, I have it zip tied beneath the bracket, so the zip tie is under the bracket, but that's draped over the top of it. So theoretically, as the water level rises, it should stand up more easily and hopefully trigger. So there's a little bit better look at it. And it's just one of those things, depending on how your stuff's set up, if you're rigging it, which is kind of what I'm doing here, you might have to do some creative things. But really, once I'm done with the rear sump pump, I might be able to just go ahead and replace this one. And then if you remember last time, we had this all clear water. The problem is that I took the sump pump out because I was worried about it getting stuck. Well, we're back in the water again. So it's probably just as high as it was last time. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is put the sump pump here in the center, let it kind of clear some of the water out. And again, this was a good pump. It worked fine. The biggest thing is that as this pump moved, so as this switch moved and stuff like that, it wound up actually causing an issue where it rubbed against the bucket. So this is a don't do a 5-gallon bucket in your basement kind of situation. It's going to town right there. I've got the switch flipped up. That way it's running. And then it's just pumping in the front area. So now is going to be a good chance to double check the front and see how well this works. So this is a really good chance to kind of see just how big a basin should be. So there should be plenty of room for that switch to move as it needs to in order to trigger. And then it looks like it's getting pretty vertical. There we go. So that just triggered. And the only thing that I don't like is I wish it would have pulled a little bit more water out. Now I know this will now operate by itself and I don't have to worry about it. Which brings me to the new pump. So this pump's a little bit different. So this one's made by Superior Pump. It's an older pump. I bought it at kind of like a local hardware store. And it's one of those things where it's a little pricey. So a little bit more than twice the cost of that other pump. But this one's cast iron. So I'm hoping it's going to be a little bit tougher. What's kind of cool is that it handles up to 3/8 inch solids. So should move some pretty decent amount of stuff. It's got a little bit longer cord. And then it's got a vertical sump pump trigger. So instead of having the switch swing and need all that space, as long as this and the float doesn't touch the side of the 5-gallon bucket and that moves nice and smooth, we should be good to go with leaving that down in the rear sump pump basin-y thing 5-gallon bucket. And then the instruction manual in this one probably breaks it down the best in that calling the style where the float moves up and down and swings out is a wide angle switch, whereas this one's a vertical switch. So pretty much the kind of the same as the other one. So it says don't place it directly on ground or sandy or rocky surfaces. Sand and small stones may clog or cause damage to your pump. But you can see, pretty heavy duty looking pump. Pretty heavy, so much heavier than the other one was. It's got a nice handle up here. That other one you can easily lift up with your, by the wires. So this one, I would not recommend trying to lift it by the wires. And then you can see here, the switch. So pretty simple stuff. Looks like up in here, that's what actually triggers and shuts it off. So as the float comes up, it collides with that shoulder comes up a little bit more, on, water level drops down, off. So pretty simple stuff. 2 plugins. So just like the original sump pump setup. So it's got your sump pump switch here that hooks into your power source first, and then the pump plugs in the back. Whenever this is triggered in the up location, it allows power through that connector, allowing the pump to run. Then when the switch drops down far enough, that disconnects the connector here and cuts power to the pump. So this guy's still going strong, and it's kind of one of those things where I've got plans for this, because there's always somewhere where you can use a pump. And I'm especially kind of thinking, you know, somewhat like a maybe a solar powered situation or something like that, where I've got this outside, maybe supplying water to like garden beds or something like that from a rain barrel collection area, or, you know, just to take out and use in case something like this ever happens again. Because I'm pretty sure all this water came up from that hole. I don't think there's any big crack in the floor here, that it's just coming up through the center. But it's being quite the trooper, moving quite a lot of water out. I'd hate to see how many shop vacs this would take if you did that route. And then the nice thing is that with this pump here, it uses the 1.5 NPT. So does the new pump. So all I need to do is take the old output fittings that I put together, remove the old Teflon tape, make sure I've got a nice dry set of threads, apply new Teflon tape and screw it in, and then this guy's going to be ready to drop in place. And then real quick, we can compare kind of like the footprint. So you can kind of see the new pump from underneath, very much long in one direction, very short in, let's say, the tall direction. Bottom part of this, very round. So if we were to put them together, you can kind of see the new pump's much more compact and much smaller in total size. We've got the switch plugged in, we've got the pump plugged into the switch, got the hose hooked up. This is sitting in the middle of the floor. This is going to be kind of cool because this sucks from the bottom, whereas the Harbor Freight one kind of sucked a little bit from the top. So let's go ahead and flip the switch up. So this sounds fairly quiet too. It's not going to be quite as nifty in terms of just, you know, flipping the sensor up. So essentially what I can do is I can actually just take this and bypass this switch in order to kind of keep the pump going. But right now it's just interesting to kind of see just how quiet it is. So I was impressed with both pumps, fairly quiet, brand new. This is probably going to be one of those do as I say, don't as I do moments. But I'm going to go ahead and set this down inside the bucket. The bucket is very full, so it'll probably trigger as I'm setting it down. There it goes. So still haven't set it down yet. This handle's super handy. Again, still pretty quiet, but I think the other one was a little bit louder once it was actually sitting in the bucket, because I think there's some reverberation from the bucket itself. Almost down far enough I can let go. There we go. Awesome. Then it'll be interesting to see what it looks like once it drops down far enough, like when it actually shuts off. So how far down does the float have to drop before it actually shuts off? So it looks like the float's starting to go down a little. It's still running. Awesome. There we go. So the fun thing is that that'll continue to fill up, especially as I take the water and squeegee the water over here. But now I know I've got 2 sump pumps that should work, and I've got way more peace of mind. So all in all, I'm not real happy with this 5-gallon bucket thing, and I'm kind of wondering how tough it would be to kind of knock this out big enough to actually fit a good basin in there. Because I tried pulling on the bucket, that sucker's going nowhere. So I don't know if somehow it's bolted down or something. Oh, looks like it triggered. But yeah, that bucket's pretty well in place. So this will be pretty handy. And it looks like essentially the top part of the sump pump will probably never really see a whole lot of water, which ought to help with like situations like with the front sump pump where like the hardware kind of rusted away. So I'm kind of hoping once that dries off, it stays dry and we don't have any kind of weird rust problems later. So definitely pretty happy with how things have gone so far. So the sump pump in the back, shutting off, kicking on as needed. Sump pump out here, shutting off, kicking off as needed. Kicking on, shutting off as needed. But either way, very happy with the results and stuff like that. So glad that this is working. The nice thing is that that Harbor Freight pump, I can always wind up using that Harbor Freight pump in this up here to replace this in a pinch. So this one's still working. You know, do I trust that zip tie? Yeah. But it's definitely one of those things where if you need something, that Harbor Freight pump was great. Now that I've got probably the forever pump-ish, hopefully, fingers crossed, for that situation of a sump pump in the back. And then this one's at least going. This one rarely lights off. So really it's just the feed from the back that really causes this sump pump to fire. And the nice thing is that should this one fail, we do have just when you think you're done, I'm gonna tuck that in there. So that way, hopefully that doesn't come back out. That sump pump still fires, and we're all good. Thought I was done. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll check you next time. Really, I should just put the lid on, and then mount that so it fires down in the hole. And get a new hose, because this one just keeps kinking. It's like, I don't want to flow. There we go. Better not fixed.